Ha! Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going, everybody? I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So, I did go ahead and grab one of the other games between Niemann and Wesley So, taking out of the Speed Chess Championship, and this is Blitz game number 9. So, it is a very exciting game, if I do say so myself. So, get excited with me, homie. All of my people that are coming from the Philippines, I will say maraming salamat. Anybody else from around the world, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. But if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look at what we got for this game, son. All right, man, so we got e4, e5, the most classical way to play against the e4 pawn movement. We do see knight going to f3, and then knight goes to c6. And like I always say with these openings, I mean, you have basically white and black mentioning that they want to do the same thing. You see knight to f3 attacking the pawn. You see knight to c6 defending the pawn. Forgive my arrows. We do see bishop going to b5. We got knight to f6. And this is the Berlin defense. So the Berliner, which is Wesley So, is being Berlined by Niemann on the black side of the board. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. They're like, hey, man, this is like, these are draws. This game is not a draw. I promise you that somebody wins this game. I just won't spoil who it is. So we do see the move d3. One of the biggest things that you want to make sure you do, as I always say, when you do have your e4 pawn or e5 pawn flung forward, is make sure that you're protecting it, man. It's a very important part of your position. You definitely don't want your central beautiful pawn to fall. So we do see bishop to c5. We got the move c3. And then we actually see castles by black. Something I did want to mention. If your opponent, if you have this kind of a setup with the bishop here or here, and you have a knight here or here, you know, your opponent is playing like pretty lax, it's like, hey man, I want to waste a bunch of moves, you might hit him with this move, plot out. Now, it is not actually the best at all in this position. It does waste a little bit of tempo because white can just cancel, but it's kind of something to think about. You know, you definitely do see it in these positions from the white side. You know, you have some gambit-y type stuff where you have a bishop here, a knight here, you go knight to g5. Sometimes it can be very hard to meet if you are not developed enough. So just throwing something out there. But we do see castles by black. We got castles by white. So we don't see any of that type of stuff here. We got rook over to e8. We got bishop to g5, pinning that knight down and trying to win it. We got a6. Bishop goes to c4. Resetting on that diagonal that I just was telling you guys about a second ago. F7 can be just a little bit tender with the rook having moved. We do see the move h6. We got bishop to h4. You're basically asking black, do you want to go g5? Sometimes g5 can be preferable. It's actually not too bad in this position. But you got to be careful with this, man, because sometimes you can see knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes. And this is a forever pin that you're pretty much never getting out of. Queen f3 can come, stuff like that. So be careful. We do see bishop going to f8, and this is the novelty of the game. Now, even though this is the novelty of the game, this is a very common idea that you see. When you have a structure such as this, moving rook to e8, which automatically protects this e5 pawn I was telling you guys about earlier, but bishop going back to f8 just adds some good protection here. It's not relevant in this position, but sometimes you have like a bishop here, you got a queen coming up here, or even c1, and you can have some sacrifices on this square. Those can be very hard to meet. So bishop going back to f8, just make sure that we are not vulnerable with any of that stuff. We do see a4 grabbing some queenside space. We got the move d6. We do see h3. Now, like I tell you guys before, h3 is preventing anything from coming into g4. But if you notice, these two squares are completely cut off from the bishop. So you basically only really kind of have these two squares. And this probably being one of the better of the two squares, even though both are playable. But a lot of what you're kind of doing sometimes in the opening of a game is trying to prevent what your opponent can do. And just to leave them frustrated, homie. But we do see bishop e6. We got knight b to d2. And this is actually pretty beautiful because we're looking at bishop takes c4, knight takes c4. And we still have a really beautiful pawn chain. So everything is everything. We got bishop to e7. We see bishop taking e6, pawn taking e6. And then we do see the move rook to e1. Like I said before, I mean, you're protecting e4. Like, you see this right here. Rook is protecting, knight is protecting, pawn is protecting. E4 is not going anywhere, bro. We're good to go on that tip. We do see rook going over to f8. We do see bishop down to g3, and we actually have the move queen to e8. And in the game, which is an idea that's really kind of prevalent right now in this position, is the move D4. D4 is definitely one of the moves that you want to play in these positions. That's a little bit of the reason why C3 is played, to make sure that we have support for D4. But an honorable mention in this position actually is the move Queen to B3. And this is actually somewhat of a difficult move to meet, because you are double attacking this pawn on E6 and this pawn on B7. And it's a little bit hard to protect both of them. The best move in the position is actually Queen to D7, going ahead and letting this pawn go. But you would be hanging your queen after Rook F goes to B8. And you do not have the ability to take this C7 pawn because the queen has now protected it. But some of you guys might be wondering, why wouldn't I go Queen to C8 in this position? Because it kind of takes care of both of those, right? Well, the problem that you have in the position is you still have this D4 idea. So if you were to see D4, pawn would take D4, pawn would take D4. This is definitely the best way to go about it. Because if you sit and do nothing, you will be looking at white capturing this pawn and capturing back, and they would be winning a pawn after all of that. Okay, so all my arrows succeeded right there. But we do not see that, like I said. We do see the move D4 immediately, which, I mean, it's a legitimate move in its own right. So it's not like it's a bad move by any means. We do see the move Knight to H5. But if you notice, pushing D4 immediately, it did allow Black to defend just in time. So we do see pawn taking E5, kind of trying to execute that same idea as a second ago. But we do have the very important Knight takes G3 first. And we have just taken an attacker of that diagonal, and most importantly, this square here off the board. So when the smoke clears, everything is much better for Black. We do see pawn taking G3, knight taking E5, knight taking, and then we have pawn taking. And yes, you have doubled pawns, but you definitely don't have anywhere near the amount of attacking going on the E5 square, and you do have an ability to really get some defenses rolling in this position, and we see that coming up. Knight goes to F3. We do see Rook to D8, hitting a nice crucial tempo on the queen. We got Queen to B3 now, but the ideas that we had earlier aren't really as relevant here. Black has a really, really nice move they can play, and it is Bishop to C5 with check. So it's kind of crazy how Black has moved this bishop so many times, and I mean, the wasting of tempo is not really that big of a deal. But this does force our queen over. We do see king to H1, and then we actually see the move Rook to D3. And white is definitely in a very solid position, but I think some of you guys can kind of feel the heat. You're like, wait a minute, man, this knight is kind of getting hot on this knight. Rook takes F3, sacrificing the exchange is definitely very much on the board. If you can do that, the pawn would take, the rook would take, and you have really kind of broken down the protection in front of white's king. You got the bishop rolling in. This queen is going to step in here at some point, and it's not looking too comfortable around this white king. So we have to make sure we prevent that. So we do see rook going to F1. And then we actually see the move king to H7, but this is actually a blunder. So we have reached a position that white has an absolutely killer move that they can play in this position. If you want to pause the video and try to guess that move, go ahead and do so. Okay, so I'm hoping that you guys see this. I tell you guys all the time that one of the major things in positions that you want to be paying attention to is making sure that you're not hanging your own pieces, like, you know, undefended pieces everywhere, and to always be looking out for them in your opponent's position. So what you should have seen, and I'm sad if you did not see this, man, queen goes to C4. You are looking at an undefended bishop and an undefended rook, and basically black is going to have to go into desperado mode to try to save what they have. So after we do see queen to C4, congratulations if you said that, because you are a gangster. And I mean, I don't know what else to say, bro. High five you. Okay. Like I said, we do see queen to C4 attacking both of these pieces right here. Bam. And so, like I said, black has to go into desperado mode. Rook D takes F3. But after all the smoke settles, rook takes, and then we see pawn taking. Not only do we not have the same like heaviness going on, because now we don't have a rook on F3 with the bishop and the queen and everything. We have just actually helped white save their pawn structure. But it was really the only thing that black can do in this particular situation. So we are now even pawns, but we are down a full exchange. We are black. And that is really not where you want to be. So going back in this position here, after we do see rook to F1 covering, it was best to either just go like a B5 and prevent queen to C4 altogether. Maybe go B6 and protect his piece, or just move this rook out of the way. So you always have to be making sure that you're paying attention when you have undefended pieces in your position and in your opponent's position. Because you might mess around and get some winning game because your opponent just dropped some pieces. You never know, man. Never underestimate. We do see bishop going down to e3. This does allow queen taking c7. We got queen going to g6, but it's a day late and $1 short. And we see queen taking e5, and it is in this position that Hans Niemann resigns the game because you really don't have anything you can do. So black has 5 pawns. You have 7 pawns if you are Wesley So. And you have just made sure that you are protecting the really one major weak point that you have in your position. And you are bringing this rook into play very soon. And everything is just everything, man. This is absolutely not what you can play against really pretty much any of these players, man. So it makes sense that Hans did resign the game. So, of course, all of my people in the Philippines, I will say magandang umaga. It is just about to be afternoon, so magandang hapon. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. Let me see, what else? Masaya ko makita kang muli. I really appreciate seeing everybody again. Hello ulit. Yes, almasal tayo. Get your coconut shakes. I appreciate everybody very much, and I'm gonna see y'all next time.